The shadows are deeper than you think. What if the best film noirs aren't the ones playing on every classic movie channel? These 10 films were buried by studios, forgotten by audiences, or released at exactly the wrong moment. Inside are crooked cops, deadly romances, and production stories that nearly destroyed careers. Some pushed censors to their breaking point, others featured blacklisted writers hiding their names. And number 1 broke Hollywood's biggest taboo in 1959, something that could have ended everyone involved. Here are 10 classic film noir gems that slipped through the cracks, films darker than anything you've seen before. Starting at number 10, we have The Prowler from 1951. A corrupt police officer named Webb Garwood starts an affair with a married woman, then murders her husband for insurance money. Sounds familiar, right? Director Joseph Losey and his team deliberately flipped the double indemnity formula on its head, putting the cop in the role of the seducer instead of the victim. The real twist here is that the screenplay came from Dalton Trumbo, one of Hollywood's most talented writers, but his name appears nowhere in the credits. Trumbo was blacklisted during the McCarthy era, forced to write in secret while the government hunted for communists in the film industry. He even provided the voice for the radio DJ in the film, a subtle middle finger to the censors trying to silence him. Evelyn Keyes, who played the female lead, later called this her best performance, but almost nobody saw it. The film became an orphan, with no clear rights holder, nearly lost forever until the Film Noir Foundation restored it decades later. Modern critics give it perfect scores, but back in 1951, Losey's career in America was about to end. Within a year, he fled to Europe to escape the blacklist, never returning to Hollywood. Today, The Prowler stands as proof that sometimes the most dangerous films are the ones that expose what's rotting underneath suburban perfection. At number 9, the setup from 1949 takes place entirely in real time over 72 minutes. Robert Ryan plays an aging boxer named Stoker Thompson, who refuses to throw a fight, even though his crooked manager already took money from gangsters. Director Robert Wise shot the entire film like you're watching it happen live, with no time jumps or cuts to later scenes. The fight sequences used 3 cameras simultaneously, choreographed by an actual boxer named Johnny Indrisano, who knew exactly how punches really land. RKO Studios rushed the film into theaters to beat another boxing movie called Champion, leading to a lawsuit they eventually settled quietly. Critics immediately recognized something special, with opening week grossing $245,000, massive money in 1949. The film captures something most boxing movies miss: the crowd's bloodthirsty excitement as they watch a man getting destroyed. Audrey Totter plays Stoker's wife Julie, who can't even watch the fight, wandering the streets outside while her husband bleeds for pocket change. What makes this a forgotten gem is its unflinching honesty about sports corruption and the dignity of one man's refusal to stay down. Wise later called it his favorite of all his films, and he directed The Sound of Music and West Side Story, so that's saying something. It pioneered the real-time format years before High Noon made it famous, but somehow the setup remains underseen, tucked away in the noir section, while Ryan's performance, which should have won him an Oscar, gets ignored. Coming in at number 8 is Criss Cross from 1949, a heist film where everything goes wrong. Burt Lancaster plays an armored car driver who still loves his ex-wife, played by Yvonne DiCarlo, even though she's married to a gangster now. He gets pulled into robbing his own truck, believing they can run away together if they just get enough money. Director Robert Siodmak shot on real Los Angeles locations that don't exist anymore, capturing a city that vanished under freeways and development. The film's cynical ending refuses to give anyone what they want, a pattern that defines the best noir. Lancaster and DiCarlo had already played lovers in Brute Force, and their chemistry here feels dangerous, like touching exposed wires. Critics loved it, earning an Edgar Award nomination for the screenplay, but it couldn't compete with bigger releases that year. A 1995 remake called The Underneath tried to update it, failing to capture the original's doomed fatalism. Miklos Rozsa's score adds weight to every betrayal, every moment where characters realize they're trapped by their own choices. What makes Criss Cross a hidden gem is how it defines the noir formula, where love and money intersect at exactly the wrong angle. The film sits at 92% on Rotten Tomatoes today, restored and appreciated, but most people still haven't heard of it, overshadowed by Lancaster's more famous work. Number 7 brings us The Big Combo from 1955. An obsessed detective named Leonard Diamond, played by Cornell Wilde, hunts a gangster named Mr. Brown, played by Richard Conte, partly because he's in love with Brown's girlfriend. What sets this apart is the cinematography by John Alton, a master of shadows who made darkness visible. The film features scenes of torture, including one where hitmen use a hearing aid to amplify screams, something censors somehow missed. Due to a copyright error, The Big Combo entered the public domain, meaning anyone can watch it free, yet it remains unknown outside film school circles. Quentin Tarantino later admitted it influenced Reservoir Dogs, specifically the sadistic professionalism of the criminals. The film pushes boundaries everywhere, with an implied sexual relationship between two male hitmen that would have destroyed careers if made explicit. Richard Conte's villain ranks among the coldest in noir history, a man who sees other humans as property to be managed. The movie was shot on a poverty budget, but Alton's lighting makes every frame look expensive, proof that artistic vision matters more than money. Reviews now give it 93% approval, but in 1955, it played second-run theaters and disappeared. For anyone studying how light and shadow create meaning, this is required viewing, a masterclass in visual storytelling that most people have never seen. At number 6, Shield for Murder from 1954 puts a badge on the villain. Edmund O'Brien plays Detective Barney Nolan, who murders a bookie to steal his money, then has to cover up the crime while maintaining his reputation as a good cop. O'Brien also co-directed this film with Howard W. Koch, adapted from a pulp novel by William P. McGivern. The 82 minutes pack in chases, shootouts, and a sweaty desperation as Nolan's plans unravel. Unlike films that romanticize bad cops, this one shows the ugly truth, a man willing to destroy anyone to keep his secret. The movie made good money, especially on television, but critics dismissed it as just another B-movie, too violent and too cheap to matter. Modern viewers recognize it as hardcore noir, unflinching in its portrayal of corruption. John Agar plays Nolan's younger partner, slowly realizing his mentor is a murderer. The film benefits from its low budget, forcing every scene to count, no filler or wasted moments. What makes it underrated is its refusal to apologize for its protagonist's choices. Nolan isn't conflicted or redeemable. He's just a bad man with a badge, and that honesty makes the film sting. Today it sits forgotten between bigger cop dramas, but for fans of hard-boiled crime stories, Shield for Murder delivers exactly what the title promises. Number 5 is The Narrow Margin from 1952, directed by Richard Fleischer, in only 13 days for $230,000. Detective Walter Brown, played by Charles McGraw, has to protect a gangster's widow on a train ride from Chicago to Los Angeles while assassins hunt them both. The 78 minutes fly by, every scene crackling with tension inside those narrow train corridors. Fleischer used handheld cameras to navigate tight spaces, an innovation that creates claustrophobic panic. The script by Earl Felton earned an Oscar nomination for its constant twists, including one late reveal that changes everything you thought you knew. Howard Hughes delayed the film's release for 2 years, for mysterious reasons, but when it finally hit theaters, critics recognized a near-perfect thriller. Marie Windsor plays the widow with sharp intelligence, never just a victim waiting to be saved. The film has no traditional musical score, relying on train sounds and silence to build dread. It earned a 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and inspired a 1990 remake that nobody remembers. What makes this a gem is its economy, proving you don't need explosions or huge budgets to create genuine suspense. Every detail matters, from the narrow margins of the train to the narrow margins of survival, and Fleischer wastes nothing. It's a masterclass in thriller filmmaking that somehow remains underseen, buried under decades of flashier but emptier action films. Moving to number 4, Pickup on South Street from 1953 stars Richard Widmark as a pickpocket who accidentally steals microfilm from communist spies. Director Samuel Fuller turned Cold War paranoia into a kinetic street thriller, filmed in gritty New York locations that feel authentically dangerous. Jean Peters plays the woman caught between sides, while Thelma Ritter earned an Oscar nomination playing a professional informant with surprising dignity. The film cost $780,000 and faced censorship battles, with the production code demanding changes to tone down violence. More controversially, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover hated how the film portrayed communism as less important than personal survival. Fuller's criminals care more about money than ideology, refusing to be patriotic pawns, and that ambiguity made government officials nervous. The subway sequences pulse with energy, capturing the rhythm of street life in ways that influenced French director Robert Bresson's Pickpocket years later. Reviews now give it 93% approval, recognized as one of Fuller's best, but its anti-authoritarian streak kept it from major success in McCarthy-era America. Widmark's performance defines the noir anti-hero, smart and selfish, and impossible to look away from. What makes this underrated is how it uses espionage as window dressing for a story about loyalty among thieves. The real tension isn't political, it's personal, and that human scale gives the film staying power long after Cold War politics faded. At number 3, Nightfall from 1956 marks a late entry in the classic noir period. Director Jacques Tourneur adapted David Goodis's novel about a commercial artist named Jim Vanning, played by Aldo Ray, who's hunted for a crime he didn't commit. The film uses flashbacks to slowly reveal what actually happened during a robbery in snowy Wyoming mountains. Anne Bancroft co-stars in an early role years before her breakthrough in The Graduate. What's unusual here is the snow itself, replacing noir's typical rain-soaked city streets with white landscapes that create a different kind of shadow. Tourneur understood atmosphere from directing horror films like Cat People, and he brings that same dread to this thriller. Initial reviews were mixed, some critics confused by the fractured timeline, but modern reassessment recognizes it's ahead of its time structure. Quentin Tarantino later said it influenced Pulp Fiction's non-linear storytelling, though few people connect the dots. The paranoia feels genuine, closer to Hitchcock than typical noir, with an innocent man trapped in a nightmare he can't wake up from. At only 78 minutes, every scene advances the plot or deepens the mystery. No wasted space. What makes it a hidden gem is how it subverts expectations, taking noir conventions and twisting them just enough to feel fresh. The Wyoming sequences look nothing like standard film noir, proving the genre could adapt and evolve. Despite its innovations, Nightfall remains obscure, overshadowed by more famous late-period noirs like Touch of Evil. Number 2 is Detour from 1945, possibly the most famous unknown noir ever made. Director Edgar G. Ulmer reportedly shot this in 6 days for somewhere between $20,000 and $100,000. Opinions vary. Tom Neal plays Al Roberts, a pianist hitchhiking across America who experiences the worst luck imaginable. When the driver dies of natural causes, Al panics and assumes his identity, only to pick up a hitchhiker named Vera, played by Ann Savage, who blackmails him into her own schemes. Ulmer turned technical accidents into artistic choices, like when film negatives got flipped making cars drive on the wrong side, creating a disorienting nightmare logic. The film runs only 68 minutes but feels inescapable, every decision making things worse in a cosmic joke of fate. Released through Poverty Row Studio PRC, it earned $1 million but entered public domain decades later, meaning anyone can watch it free today. Roger Ebert called it film noir's guilty soul, and Anne Savage's Vera ranks among cinema's greatest villains, vicious and desperate and unforgettable. The Academy restored it in 4K in 2018, but it had already influenced generations of filmmakers who saw past its technical flaws to the raw paranoid vision underneath. What makes Detour the ultimate cult noir is its absolute fatalism. Al Roberts did nothing truly wrong, but the universe crushes him anyway, and that existential horror defines what noir really means. A 1992 remake tried to recapture it, failing completely, because you can't fake this kind of doomed authenticity. And finally, number 1, The Crimson Kimono, from 1959. Director Samuel Fuller pushed boundaries throughout his career, but this film crossed a line Hollywood wouldn't touch. Two detectives, one white and one Japanese American, investigate a stripper's murder in Los Angeles' Little Tokyo neighborhood. James Shigeta plays Detective Joe Kojaku, who falls in love with a white woman, played by Victoria Shaw. That's where it gets revolutionary. In 1959 America, interracial romance was still illegal in many states, and showing it on screen could end careers. Fuller shot on real Little Tokyo locations, hiring actual community members, treating Japanese American characters as complex humans instead of stereotypes. The film addresses racism directly, with Joe's jealousy toward his white partner creating fractures in their friendship. Fuller made his white detective flawed and his Japanese American detective heroic, deliberately inverting every Hollywood expectation. Some Southern theaters refused to show it. Some critics called it dangerous, and the film's box office suffered for its bravery. It currently holds 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, restored in 1998, but most people still haven't heard of it. What makes this number 1 isn't just its technical craft or noir credentials. It's the courage to make this film when it could have destroyed everyone involved. Fuller didn't care about safe choices. He cared about truth, and The Crimson Kimono remains his most radical statement. While Double Indemnity gets praised for moral ambiguity, this film tackled real social issues with actual stakes, and for that alone, it deserves recognition as a lost classic. Thanks for watching this dive into film noir's forgotten corners. These films prove that sometimes the best art hides in plain sight, waiting for audiences brave enough to find them. If you're hungry for more deep dives into classic cinema, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another hidden gem. Drop a comment with your favorite underrated noir, the one film everyone should watch but nobody talks about.